Thank you for listening to the Business and Beyond podcast.
We appreciate all of our listeners. If this is your first time listening to the Business and Beyond podcast, we hope you enjoy this episode. Episode 61 of the Business and Beyond podcast is brought to you by Meatmeister's Charity Barbecue. They're giving back one queue at a time. We're here, Ashton, Tony, special guest Landen joining us today. We're here to be your therapy for the day. After a terrible, well, I guess if you're a Cowboys fan. If you're not a Cowboys fan, you're probably doing fine today.
You're elated today. You're excited that the Cowboys got their ass kicked last night.
All of our fellow Cowboys fans, we're here to get your mind off of that, to talk about other things, because I've been full on it doing podcasts, sports podcasts, and I'm tired of talking about that. Talk about how Jerry Jones has just completely screwed up this team. He runs a great business. Cowboys are number one in ratings. They're worth the most money of any professional franchise. That $150 million investment he made in buying them, now worth $8 billion, or whatever it's worth.
Yeah.
Great businessman, but terrible football owner.
Yeah, so it's not too late for him to find a new career.
It's not.
What we're going to talk
That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Maybe Jerry Jones can listen and we can convince him to give up on the stream. He has his trophies. Let's just pass it on. I don't know if Stephen Jones
isn't any better. If you hear him talking this week, he's not any better.
No.
It's Jerry 2.0.
No, we're not going to walk. But is it too late to start a new business? Is it too late to change careers, to go back to school? We have different generations here. Obviously, Landen's a sophomore in high school. He probably looks at us like we're old, ancient guys. I'm sitting here hurting with a pinched nerve. I'm only in my early 30s and can barely turn my head. That's why I keep doing this. I'm avoiding looking at him until he talks.
Yeah, I don't think it is too late, ever.
No.
I don't think there's ever a point in your life.
Now, we always look at people like Elon Musk. We bring him up a lot. He starts new businesses all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He started with PayPal. Worked with whatever. I mean, Tesla's been around a while, but
Yeah, SpaceX. There's another like an underground boring
yeah,
company.
Yeah.
He has
Twitter that he invested in recently.
I guess, yeah. He's
I mean,
working
people
on purchasing
that he
Twitter.
bought
I mean,
in.
he's
not entrepreneurial minds think like, okay, I mean, how old is Elon Musk? He's late 40s probably. Like,
yes,
he doesn't
that's
look
what I
that
would guess.
old, but I haven't realized how long he's really been famous. But a lot of non-entrepreneurial minds think, okay, you have that amount of money, just coast, just do what you want to do, just have fun, hand it off to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's not his style. He wants to be in on business decisions.
Yeah.
But I'd probably be that way too, man. If I just had a couple $1 million, I'm sure I'd have something on the side going just to keep me busy, but I wouldn't just be reinvesting, just throwing it all away
And even if
in
you
Tesla, expecting it to fail, and it just happens to make you a ton of money.
even if you don't have the millions these guys have that can just go play, and that's what some people will probably say is, well, yeah, of course they can go play and dabble in other things because they're rich, they have money. But I think aside from that, at any point you can go start a business. There's nothing stopping anyone from changing their business, going a different direction, even starting a new side hustle. 50 or 60 years old, you still got life to live, right? I mean, I don't know what the average age is now. I mean, most people are living in their 80s, right? I mean, you could start a whole career. You can have a 20-year career and wait till you're 60 to start a business and have a long 20-year career probably.
Yeah. I don't remember whatever his real name is, but Colonel Sanders didn't start KFC till he was in his mid-60s, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically you could retire from your 9-to-5 job, start a business, and then build that into something in 20 years.
I mean, Landon can attest to this. We teach our kids and tell our kids that you can do anything you want. You can be anything you want. We're going to support you along the way. If going to college is that, and that's fine. But we want our kids to have the opportunities to understand and know that at any point they can go and invest in themselves, and try to
I know what's in that cup. I don't want you to spill it.
and try to, build something at any point. And I mean, obviously our kids are still young, so we haven't gotten too far into that. But one of those things is at 50 or 60 or 70, if you want to try something, try it. Why not?
I think when you get to that age, also you have a bit of wisdom where you're starting to think about legacy. And I don't think I'm to that point. Like, honestly, I'm like, what can I build that I can, that I know I will gain from?
You'll see
I
the
know,
fruits.
I'm going to see it. Again, I'm sure once I'm older, that's going to change. Where I'm starting to think about it. I've seen it hit me when they're talking about Ben Roethlisberger retiring. I'm like, I remember sitting and watching Eli Manning and Roethlisberger getting drafted, and Phillip Rivers and the whole drama there. Their careers are over. And I'm thinking, I'm seeing these next guys get drafted, and when their careers are over, how old am I going to be? And I'm thinking, I'm almost to that point where, I mean, clearly I'm going to live to see the end of I hope, every NFL player right now, the end of their careers. But I wasn't thinking how old was I going to be. When I was back then, like, yeah, you see a full career. I'm still going to be young then.
Yeah.
But now I'm probably going to be in my 50s when a lot of these guys retire. A lot of the superstars retire. And that doesn't interest me near as much. Now when you get older, you're going to be like, hey, I'd be happy to be alive to see all that. But I'm more worried about what's life going to be after I'm gone.
Well, and that brings up a
legacy
good
you're
point.
leaving.
This week, we're talking about the Cowboys. Guess it was this week or this weekend, Micah Parsons was quoted on saying, they were asking him about his retirement. And, what are his plans with his career? And, he's just a 2-year pro, and he's saying, at 45, I want my feet in the sand, and I want to go back and watch my son play.
As opposed to Tom Brady starting the oldest quarterback at 45.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the mindset. And you think about
he
that.
looks great. So you compare him to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers looks. I mean, I know Tom Brady's had work done. He's had a lot of plastic surgeries, but you compare him. I think he's 7 years older than Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers just looks beat. Maybe it's the beard, all the gray. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
Didn't mean to derail you.
But even Micah Parsons at 45, which is older than we are. We're not in our 40s yet, but for Micah Parsons to think, you're looking at that is he's going to transition from one career to the next. I mean, athletes are one of the prime examples of you can start a new thing at any time. Is their careers are over about 40.
Well,
and
was
they
he
can transition
that,
into a complete.
I didn't hear that interview. Was it related to, in the context of Tom Brady, as why he was saying 45?
I don't,
because it's interesting that he picked that number.
I didn't hear the entire conversation. I assume so because of Tom Brady at 45. They were saying, "What are your plans at 45?" And the response was, he was quoted as, "When I'm 45, I want my feet in the sand, and I'll be going back watching my kids' games."
Yeah, which is interesting because that's the answer you expect from a 1 to 2 year player. They're like, yeah, I'm going to play for 10, 15 years. And Micah probably will outside of some injury because he's proved he's getting... But most careers don't work out that way.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, you're talking about like practice squad players, guys that are like Turpin right now. You saw last night how this isn't the USFL anymore.
Yeah,
like
he looked a lot different.
He looked a lot different, and you're like, yeah, he's probably not going to be around in a few years. But go back to successful players like Jalen Smith. We all thought, hey, him and Van Der Esch, we got our linebackers for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and this guy's
5 years later,
not even 30.
Jalen Smith, I think, out of the league. He didn't even make it when he went to Green Bay, and then he went to the Giants.
Yeah.
And Van Der Esch looked pretty good last night, but he was on the cusp of the Cowboys not re-signing.
Yeah.
So just even when you have successful players like that, like, oh yeah, when I'm 40, when I retire, not, hey, in 5 years when you're 30, or they're probably not even 30 yet.
Just like how people, would...
It's that short-lived, and 5 years from now. I'm not thinking about retirement.
That's always the critique on athletes is, well, what are you going to do after the game? Right? But why wouldn't you and I say the same thing to each other?
What am I going to do after I
What are you going to do after you retire? After you're done in sales, when that game's up, right? Because sales evolves. Mm-hmm. So, and some salesmen at a certain point, they they don't continue to evolve with the way things are, right? And the new guys come in and there's better ways. And so why would it not be, well, what are you going to do after you're retired?
Well, honestly,
You know, why would we all not prepare that? And maybe that's the entrepreneurial mindset is, yeah, we're going to prepare ourselves for the next, right? For someone like me and what I do, and then with my graphics company, I mean, eventually I want to transition out of the physical part of the graphics where I won't be able to always install signs and build graphics and, you know, who knows if you can sit and design, you know, and maybe even the mindset of, you know, designs change over time, that the new guys come in, they understand the programs, they understand design better of what's with the times, that eventually I would need to pass that torch on and maybe take on another position or move on completely out of it. So, you know, for someone like me, I'm preparing that now.
yeah.
I'm looking into further, you know, ventures in the future that more suit the age, you know.
And that's what, again, the mindset of younger generations and older generations is that's our plan. We want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And we could imagine if I told you at a certain age, you're still going to be doing that, or you haven't passed that on yet, you're still grinding and installing or whatever. Because that's the plan. But when you get there, like, oh, I don't think I want to do this. Maybe it's, you know, I'm fully convinced, like, you want to talk about generations arguing with each other. I don't think the next generation's necessarily worse off. Like, you can find points, yeah, the baby boomers were better at Gen Xers than this. If you look in that scope, it does look like it's trending down. But every generation thinks that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to think that about, I'm a millennial, I'm thinking that about Gen Z. Are you Gen Z or are you millennial?
I'm Gen Z.
Gen Z. I'm thinking about, like, these stupid, I want to say millennials. I think that's just the term now. Everybody wants to say millennial. But that's the idea. And then when you get there, you're like, I think I can just handle it. I'd rather just keep doing it.
Not to get too far off topic, we've talked about this a lot in the past, is this is the generation that was left, right? We had to adapt or die. Just like what they're being left with is going to be even worse than what we were left with, and no one even realizes the struggle they're going to have from what the generations before them turned it into and left them with. That's part of the struggle every generation has, is the generation ahead of them really screwed it up, and they've had to adapt to what it is. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, these kids now, I mean, the technology they deal with. I mean, we were barely his age and we were getting internet in our house full time, you know? Like good high
Now
it's
a
good
requirement.
internet. Yeah. Now, I mean, they grew up on it as kids before they ever start school.
And it's hard these days just to do school assignments.
Yeah.
without internet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what all of my stuff is online assignments.
Yeah, and that's why it's such a big deal that people in poverty not having internet, and
But then,
making sure
so-
public internet is available.
If everything he has is on the internet, could you imagine a baby boomer trying to justify and even comprehend how everything you do is online and on a computer, or even he could do everything on his phone? They can't even comprehend that that's a possibility.
Yeah.
And they literally can do everything. He's going through driver's ed now. It's all at home, all on a computer.
Yeah.
We don't have any paperwork to do. It's all on the computer.
Yeah, it's all about how you adapt. And like we're saying, looking that far ahead when we retire, well, what's technology going to look like when we retire?
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of things that are just completely obsolete. You know, we talked about, I saw a picture the other day, we were talking about everything's right there. Is a guy holding a boom box, has an alarm clock, has like all this technology. It was like a Radio Shack ad.
Yeah.
It's like everything in this picture is in your pocket now.
Mm-hmm.
You have it on your phone. So people in the 80s trying to plan for whether it's retirement or just where their company is going to go, where their business is going to go. I mean, go ask somebody at Apple, working at Apple in the 80s, about where they think technology is going to go. I bet you there's interviews of it. Nobody's talking about having a computer in your pocket. I think there's a couple of people that say one day you'll have a computer in your pocket. But when you're going to a board meeting, they're not going to say, okay, our plan to build, in 30 years we're going to have a computer. Nobody's even thinking about that. There's the new iPhone just came out. It's probably the biggest change they've had in a while, other than just announced the iPhone 14, which I'm not getting, so I wasn't that much interested in it. But that's all they're looking for. They're looking like 6 months ahead. This is what. And I'm sure there's a team looking even further on beyond that. But you can, in technology,
how do you plan
can't
for that?
look that far.
Yeah.
You have to just adapt. You have to go with the flow of where things are
Because
going.
you don't know. I mean, we learned through COVID. You don't know how fast technology is going to move. Technology slingshotted through COVID in 2020. It completely leaped bounds. I mean, it went from, oh, you know what, we can adapt and we can do Zoom meetings, to now that's the only way I have meetings anymore.
Yeah.
Is on Zoom or Skype, whatever the other platforms are. That's the only way we do meetings anymore.
I think one part of it is everybody found out that it's easier to just like have everybody log into a Zoom meeting on the computer from their home than have to get a meeting point, get everybody there.
It is much more efficient, you know.
And not only changing meetings you're already having to Zoom, we're having meetings that
You weren't having before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trainings. I have a training on Wednesday to learn about certain products. In general, that might have been, hey, here's an email. Read through this. If you want to learn about this, just familiarize yourself with. Now we can log on the computer and the people from the company can talk to us in an hour-long meeting about it and have a presentation, where before the technology's been around, a while anyways, just nobody thinks to use it so much. But now it's pretty universal. Everybody has something, whether it's Zoom or Teams or whatever.
Even things just as simple as a work from home situation that we go through. I mean, we can get on a conference call, the group of our office, and be on a phone for hours working through plans, working through drawings and different things. Just like we're sitting in an office together, brainstorming and going over. We're just all on our phones on the computer looking at the same thing, and that. How do you plan for that? I mean, how would you even know that that's where we were going in such a short amount of time?
And my mother-in-law recently got a new job, and it's not necessarily out of the field she's been working. It's sort of all tied in, but she's working from home, and she's got we're telling her using terms like VPN and this and that. She's like, what? She has no clue. I didn't mean that as an insult, but my wife is helping her out, where if we didn't have that option, she probably would be like, I'm not gonna take that job because it's a work from home. But now you can take work from home jobs.
Yeah.
I consider, not personally with my job now, but in general, I've considered, I'll change a field. I'll change whatever field if I just get a completely work from home job. Sometimes I've had a completely work from home job, because you have.
Yeah.
It's a grass is greener situation, but sometimes it's nice, and you're more likely to change for perks like that rather than, I know most people, it's just been hammered into us, go work for a company, stay with them for 30 or 40 years. It's not as advantageous as it used to be. There's no pensions anymore, maybe in certain companies, but that's just not the way.
401k that you just isn't going to be there. I mean, that's part of it.
That's
is
a
nobody
good thing to have, but
nobody.
It's not 401k.
It's not
that's not your
enough.
retirement plan. That's a good thing. You invest. You have 401k. You have this. That's a good step.
Most people don't invest enough. I would say the majority of people, even as big as investing is now, and the stock market and crypto, people don't invest enough now to actually be able to live off of when they retire at 65.
And we could do a show on 401ks. I know they get a lot of flack, and the reason I say go for 401k is if your company offers a match, because to me that's just free money. If they're going to say we'll match 5, 6, 7%, I'll do that. But that's not all I'm doing. I'm not saying 401k I'm going to be set when I retire.
And through the investment process that you and I do as well is we're business planning. We're planning for businesses that we can go at retirement, that we could start up at that point and still create additional income for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And part of what we're talking about is the generation leaving. What they're leaving is not necessarily them screwing up the world, but the strides you make in technology all of a sudden have this other ulterior effect. Is if you go back and look at your average 30-year-old couple, what their bills were in 1980. You're not cell phone bills, which I get. You don't have to have a cell phone, but you kind of have to have a cell
Yeah.
phone. The way it works now.
Mhm.
If you don't have a reliable cell phone, I know there's cheaper options. If you don't have a reliable cell phone, it's hard to find a job because you have to have a reliable phone,
Well, and when you
mode
have
of
that,
transportation,
when you have the cell phone,
internet,
it's not just the phone. You have to have that, right? The internet on there for.
and then I promise you, I mean, my wife works from home. I do a lot of work from home. We could not do that without Wi-Fi. So we have Wi-Fi. Vehicles are more expensive than ever. I'm not just talking about inflation in general. They're more expensive because of the technology, the safety.
And even
put
now,
into
if we
them.
look far enough back, how many households didn't have more than one vehicle?
Yeah.
You know, they may have one vehicle. One person's a stay-at-home that doesn't have a vehicle at home, and the other one does. I mean, I know we're really dating things far back, but
But then you have kids, and you're like, you can't really stay at home,
no.
or you can't be at home without an extra vehicle when you
Well,
have
and
kids.
even
home.
now, towns and cities are becoming even bigger. The
Yeah.
commuting, you know, used to towns were a lot smaller. You didn't have to have a vehicle. You could walk. You could ride bikes. Those were, you know, your grocery, everything you do was in
trains
one
have gone the
town.
opposite. Most metropolitan areas had some sort of trains that ran out
Yeah.
to the suburbs, and now that's just not a thing because you go out in the suburbs, you realize I have to have a vehicle, and then once you have a vehicle, you're like, well, I'm not going to do that because I could just drive. Why pay extra? I'm already paying for the
Yeah.
vehicle. Everything's more expensive, and this isn't a political. A political thing of now things are more expensive. Just in general, not because of inflation, things are more expensive because technology advances. Like I said, cars are safer. That's good. That's what we want. Well, now they're more expensive to make, so they're more, And oh man, we need to talk about all the fees they're adding to cars, like heated seats. You're gonna have to start, not in general, but some. I'll have to look it up. But I think it may be Honda, but heated seats are like $15 a month, which
Oh yeah.
yeah, stuff like that. That we need to do an episode just on that. But you advance to a certain point, and you're like, yeah, this is great. Internet's great. Having Facebook is great. And then you're like, hey, we could use this for business. We could do, email. You can, and all of a sudden, yes, getting from point A to point B, whether it's delivering something, placing an order, is fast. It's not as convenient as it used to be anymore. At least we don't have that in our minds, because now it's supposed to be like this. And so we're just going. And yes, it's more convenient. It's a lot faster than it was a long time ago, but we're like, well, no, it's not faster than it was yesterday. Is not how we're looking at it. So we're just pushing and pushing and pushing, and that's why then you have, well, crap. Now you have to have basically two incomes for a family to afford to do anything.
Oh,
Afford
absolutely.
to live. You have to have extra phones. You have to have.
Well, and how many people have two incomes and a side hustle?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I know a ton of people that have side hustles that do something, whether it's, have a Cricut at their house, or they do baking, or
Which is part of the
whatnot.
adapting. Like, the technology caused this, but it also said, hey, you can have a side hustle.
Yeah.
My wife's considered just for extra money. She's like, well, hopefully nobody from her company is listening. She says, I can do this job just fine. I think I could have a second work from home job. She's considered that just because she thinks she could carry it on, and she doesn't have to go into
we
the
know
office
someone.
anywhere.
We know
so why
someone
not?
that has like 3 or 4 jobs like that.
Like full time.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're doing, if you think you can handle that, add something else to the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, that's kind of where we're at today, but kind of getting back on topic is there's no reason that you couldn't start that at any point
No, because
in your life and adapt it.
I read a book.
If you're physically able to do something, then you do that as your side hustle, right? Whether it's lawn mowing, whatever it is. But when you get to a certain point, you need to transition into something else that is more fitting for you as a side hustle. And by the time you're 70, maybe you're starting something else. Who knows what, some consulting or...
I read a book that was talking about you basically psych yourself out. Like, if you have a good idea or have an idea in general, just don't even think about it, go. Because after 5 seconds, if you're not making the decision to go, you're talking yourself out of it. It gave examples of, like, okay, if you go to, I don't remember what kind of meeting it was, but like a club or a group, if you want to go do that, don't stress yourself out about it. The first time you go is gonna be stressed out, but you know what? You went and you found a place to park because you're thinking in your mind, where is this place? Maybe I've never been there. You found a place to park. You know what door to go in, and you know what room to go in or where to sit, or because that's part of it is okay. I got to go to this place, but what if I can't find it? What if I can't do this? Like after the first time, well, now next time you know where to park, you know where to go. It's that much easier.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times you can psych yourself out. So man, I got to start a new job. I'm gonna have to, drive to a different office. I'm gonna meet new people. Well, if you can work from home, you start any new job.
We're gonna have
Honestly,
to learn new tasks,
and
learn
you
new
can get
systems.
a hell of a lot more training because now they're setting people up where you have more Zoom meetings. When I had my last job, we talked about on this episode when we had onboarding, where that was all it was for 3 weeks was training. It was meeting after meeting, and it was a lot more exciting than it sounded. But if, obviously that I would have never even worked there because it was Wisconsin. But if everyone went into the office, you wouldn't have time to do a meeting because I was sitting here on a computer with a meeting. Okay, it ended. I clicked into the next meeting instantly.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Okay, we're in a room, we're having this training.
And now you got
okay,
to go down
now
a hall or in another
20
building.
people have to go move to different rooms. So you're saying, okay, break that down, just make it a 30-minute break because we're not going to have everyone be able to do that. And then at the end, you're like, okay, this isn't going to work. You're not going to fit that much training into there. So companies are more willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can think, okay, not only can I do this because I don't even have to leave the comfort of my own house, I can change I can go to a completely different field because now I feel you don't know until you go there. Companies will recruit you and say whatever, but you feel like there's enough opportunity there for training where I can learn a new skill or a new field.
Or these things like that, you have a different perspective than we do. But these things like that adapt and are taught in school.
And baseball, adapt or die.
No, but I mean in school, you assume the schools are kind of teaching these things, with the technology that's used now.
I mean, like the core stuff is pretty much, core stuff's going to stay the same, but like outside of it, for Joshua, we have our endorsements. You take cosmetology, there's business planning, economics planning and management, construction classes, woodworking.
See, that's funny. All those I guess we called them electives back then. It took me a second when you said endorsements, but construction. I think that may probably back. That was an elective for us, but that was probably a common core class earlier. But to me, when he said economics is part of that, that was a common class for us that we take. That wasn't an extra class. So they have economics as an elective. Just like home ec was an elective for us.
Yeah.
Typing was an elective for us. But back in the, I don't want to date people. But back in the 80s, I think typing, home ec.
Yeah, I don't know. Is typing even
we have.
Is it a requirement?
So we have foreign languages. You have to take 2 years of foreign languages. Yeah. You either take Spanish 1 and 2 or computer science 1 and 2.
Yeah, so now computer science is a.
Well, to be fair, him going in there knew.
That's true.
No, I mean.
What we were doing is learning to type, and would be wasteful for this generation.
I took that in 8th grade. I took typing classes.
Yeah, well, we took a type. It was on a computer. It wasn't actually on a typewriter. But kids these days can know technology better than we do.
Yeah.
Which I think
it allows them for advancement in what they are getting to do with. I mean, they have culinary. They have
we have so.
There's nursing.
There's what is it? It's family planning, which is just like pretty much like growing up, like growing a family, stuff like that. You have
like home economics. Kinda.
So it's home ec, and then you have money matters, which is just money management, and I think they do investing in that class too. Then you have business management, cosmetology, and culinary. So they give you those 5 endorsements. You go out, you pick which one your 8th grade year. We got to pick ours, and then you just go through however many. Some people can do 2. I think Money Matters and Home Ec, you can take 2, both of them in your 4 years, because they're 2 years. But like for me, cosmetology is a 4-year thing. Culinary is a 4-year thing. So you have to pick, like, if you're gonna do cosmetology or culinary, that's what you do.
Cosmetology and culinary, which are
he's
good
actually going to
programs.
come out with an actual
Yeah, I
state
come
of
out
Texas
with
Yeah.
license.
my license.
And those are good programs. I think a lot of schools should have that, especially, you know, when you get in the debate of college or trade.
Yeah.
But they should be, because not everyone's going to, you know, cut hair. Not everyone's going to be a chef. Or in general, you can learn to cook it. But to commit 4 years, you're probably going into profession. But again, investing and economics, like, and I know you didn't say those were 4-year things, but grouping those, a school to group those together seems kind of odd. It's like you're only going to teach investing to the kids who probably are going to go be in some sort of
Yeah.
an investing role or a money managing role,
Yeah.
when really everyone should know how. I mean,
Yeah.
and you don't understand. Like, I'm not saying don't invest with it. You know, don't use a professional. Now, of course, if you don't know how to do it, use a professional invest. You should be investing, but you should understand what it is. You know, like, I don't know what that term
You
is.
have to
but
be able
my
to
guy
understand enough to
understands
trust
it.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great to have a guy to do something.
But even to go back, like what we've been talking about, you know, with Landen wanted to do economics. Wanted to do cosmetology. And then he kind of mentioned, well, maybe I'll change my endorsement to something else. And we pushed him to keep that because there's nothing wrong with coming out with that license, you know, to be a barber, or there's tons of things, right, that fall under that category that license can do. But there's nothing wrong to hold that license and then want to go into a different trade or into a different profession, but still continue to hold that. I mean, for someone like me, I've been in landscaping, been a certified horticulturist, licensed irrigator, a certified organic consultant, been in the electrical field for a dozen years or more. You know, having the graphics background and learning even like the science behind that. I mean, those are a lot of things in a lot of different ways.
I still have my CDL license.
Right. I mean,
when
that's
last
exactly right.
Last time I re-upped my license, I didn't have a driving job, but I paid extra just to keep it, because the alternative, if I ever fell back on that, is having to go pay the money to take the test and do all that crap again. And if laws or rules change,
Yeah.
like I
Then
don't
it's a
even
lot
know,
harder.
because I don't use you don't use half that stuff. Like when you're driving, just when you're doing driver's ed, you're learning a lot of numbers and laws for a test that you may or may not remember because you're not going to use.
Yeah,
I mean, think about, you go on city Facebook page, how many people, this is how you turn at this particular intersection, and then there's 5 different people that are convinced they have the right answer.
Yeah.
But no, that it's great to hold on to, because, you know, shit hits the fan. I can go back. I definitely don't want to go back ever.
Or
to
even at
driving a
any
truck.
point in your life, if you retire and you're like, hey, you know what, I like to use this CDL. Maybe you'll do some runs for people, like hot shot type stuff, or have your own little
Well, if we start our own
shipping
business,
business.
and it behooves us to, instead of getting something delivered, hell, I'll go rent a truck, go pick it up.
Exactly.
And, you know, I'm licensed to do that.
Right, exactly. So those are the kind of things we're talking about, is to, I guess, always have a backup plan to your backup plan. Plan A, B, C, D, and E, right?
It's
There's
easier.
nothing wrong
It's easier
with
than when
having
you
those.
lose your job, or then you're just in a miserable situation where, like, I can't quit because I can't. I'm too old to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I don't think you're ever too old. I don't think there's a point in your life that you're ever too old to make a change.
I think you should always,
As long as
kind
you're
of be
willing to
looking
adapt.
forward.
And that's what you should, especially someone at our age or even at Landon's age, that is just always remember that we just need to continue to adapt as you go. Don't get frustrated about situations. Just learn to adapt to those. So that if you just do that your entire life, at 60 or 70, that's no big deal, man. You can be collecting your retirement and running a little business or something,
Yeah, you should always be looking at yourself as a professional, whatever you do.
Yeah.
And thinking there's nothing wrong with working at a company for 40 years. There's nothing wrong with, the average experts now, using air quotes, average, you should work at a company 4 to 6 years and then look to move on. Mainly because, how do you get more money? Do you get a bigger raise, or do companies hire more? And typically, and that may change, and it may completely throw everything off that we're talking about now, typically the best way for you to get a raise, or the quickest way for you to get a bigger raise, is to switch jobs, because a new job is going to pay you more. And now, whether that's right or wrong, we just had, we've had discussions about it all through COVID. When you can't, it's hard to keep people employed because they're getting snatched up by other companies willing to pay more. And like, well, why don't you just pay your employees more? And then you don't have to worry about them leaving. But in general, you get your experience, and then if you can move up and make more money, that's great. But you should always have that in your mind, because there are great companies, there are great supervisors, there are great bosses, but companies are companies. They're,
sometimes,
you're
maybe
supposed to give 2-week notices, but
yeah,
they can fire you on the spot. If you died today, they'd have your job working to be filled the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you find a spot that maybe you are underpaid, but the situation's right, whether it's benefits or 401ks, if it allows you the opportunity to have a side hustle, then maybe that's even a better fit than just chasing.
I was using pay as just that example, but if you're happy making less because it's more flexible, you can go to all your kids' soccer games, you can pick your kids up from school, you can take extra vacation.
Well, I think that's part of entrepreneurship and that's changing a lot with the work from home and the way businesses are trending. But typically, entrepreneur is, you're putting in a lot of work, a lot of odd hours, but you allow yourself that flexibility to be able to go to all of your kids' events and be involved in family matters. You're not away all the time.
Yeah, especially, jobs like driving a truck where you can't work from home doing that. I mean, I know they're coming out with self-driving trucks,
but if you were a owner operator, you kind of set your own limits, right? You can, if you want to take loads and pick jobs that it's all going to be overnight work so that you're available, or it's only certain hours that you're available to do that, then
take your family with you, take your kids with you. I mean, some companies offer that, but insurance on that is outrageous, and you still have to have the same insurance as an owner operator, but there's better opportunities for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we're glad Landen came in and gave us a different perspective. It was perfect for this episode because I had no idea that economics was an elective, or what do you call it?
They call them endorsements.
Endorsements now. The school system seems even worse now. Like, economics was part of our history.
It never ceases to amaze you.
Yeah, I didn't think. I think we did like one semester on it, and then politics the other semester. And
we have a whole that's a history class you take your senior year.
Yeah,
but
they're like, economics. We don't need that. You can do that if you plan on doing. But if you're just gonna go drive a truck, or
we can talk about this in another show, man. But that's just how the politics of it all work.
Man,
we're gonna teach you what we want you to know.
Yeah, and I'm the first to say, don't let politics aside. This is why we're talking, and I'm letting politics get involved. We could talk about this screwed up, anything screwed up. We could pick any topic. The Cowboys, when we started, let's just sandwich this together. The Cowboys. The reason we do this show, let's just end the show on how bad the Cowboys are doing. Do they over under 5.5 games?
Under, way under.
Well, if Dak's been good at rebounding. So
let's talk about what can Jerry move on to and do. What other career could he get into?
I mean,
maybe we'll have an answer on the next
show. Is
there
a career he hasn't been in? Grocery stores, oils, and he's in everything. I see commercial, then everything. Maybe he can. No, let's not curse that. Let's say maybe he can go buy the Rangers, just give them more money. But no, we don't want that. Curse the Rangers for another 50 years. But I was waiting to press a button for music, but that's not. We don't do that anymore. It's been a while since we've done this. I'm Ashton with Tony. Landen, we'll see you next time.
Later. Thank you again for supporting the Business and Beyond podcast.
Be sure to hit the subscribe button to be alerted every time we post a new episode.